All right, Louisiana, get in here, get in here. And I'm not even a resident of Louisiana, but I can't see y'all go out like this. So let me tell you something. If y'all don't get y'all asses down there and vote, and how many of y'all got that text message from 50 Cent? See, you remember how I said a couple of days ago how Governor Landry was over there threatening teachers and whatnot. Yes, he was. Now, they're so afraid that they're getting ready to lose this lining of their pockets that they are absolutely using the influence of 50 Cent to get people to vote for Amendment 2. Now, here's the thing. 50 got on there and he was talking about how he was Curtis Jackson. He was doing all these things and he was just like, how he had gotten this studio in Louisiana. If you don't know, he does have a studio in Louisiana that he signed, what was it, a 45-year lease deal for. Now, it's cool. He's bringing jobs or whatever. He's, crafting some of y'all's favorite shows. However, he wants to talk about how it's a permanent pay raise for teachers. No, baby, it's not. It's a stipend. And the last time I checked, a stipend and a pay raise, two different things. And here's the thing. You're absolutely going to defund education to try to put something on the front end. If this ain't an end-run loan, I don't know what is. Now, he's also talking about senior citizens and whatnot. It's not going to help if they don't have their land. Because Landry is absolutely trying to build one of those supermax prisons down there. And if he can rewrite you all's state constitution, then he can absolutely start charging children as adults. And I'm talking about it as low as age 9, let's go ahead and tear their lives up early. And then make sure they don't have any programs so they can't do anything better. Now, I get it. 50 probably didn't read it. And, those Republican backers probably called him and was like, hey, you got this situation going on down here with this building and, all this stuff. And we want to keep as much money in your pocket as you possibly can. Tell the people to go ahead and vote for Amendment 2 because it'll absolutely help them. It will not. And if you got that text message, disregard it. Y'all get in there and you better vote no for that, because if you allow Landry to get in there and rewrite y'all state's constitution, y'all are getting ready to be. And I mean, it's just so interesting how you didn't hear him say anything about, the big election where we got Don that glue down wig. But now you all of a sudden want to say something about Louisiana where you got a vested interest. Of course, can't nobody be mad at that. But y'all, the mere fact that you are sitting here trying to use your influence based on, the popularity of a couple of crime-ridden shows that don't show black people in a good light is absolutely asinine. But again, Louisiana, please get in there and vote, because if you do not, and you need to vote no on all those amendments, and the fate of your state's education is absolutely dependent upon this. Even y'all's commissioner is saying, don't do this. So no, it's not a whole bipartisan situation. There's not a whole lot of, no kickback on this. There's a lot of kickback on this. And they're saying, don't do it. Now, the fact that you want to talk about education and the fact that y'all are 41. Yeah. And of course, Landry always wants to talk about those test scores. Those test scores were in place before he got there. That was the work of the person in that seat before him. So absolutely no. Make sure y'all vote no for every last one of those amendments. And then y'all continue to do the work.
Louisiana voted no on all 4 amendments. This is amazing news. This is going to prevent juvenile prisons from being built for profit. This is going to keep money in teachers' pockets instead of taxing teachers and giving that money to Jeff Landry's wealthy friends. We did it. I am so unbelievably happy right now. We don't get a lot of great news politically out of Louisiana. We don't. We truly don't. My whole job is archiving that. But you guys went out and did that and made that difference. You're going to see a difference in your community. You're going to see a difference. Your public school teachers are going to have an easier time. This is a big deal, even if it doesn't feel like it. Small victories, local victories are victories. This is something that people got together and said, absolutely not. This is something that people got together and made their voice heard. And it will be done now. I am so happy and so proud.
Since I was a little boy, the Louisiana legislature has been abdicating a huge part of their job by forcing amendment choices on the Louisiana public. We got 4 more to vote on today, and you've probably heard a lot of what I'm going to call lies, because that's what they are, from the governor about these amendments. Here's what I want to tell you what you're voting on today. Amendment 1 is really about kangaroo courts. They want the insurance companies to pick the judges so that if a hurricane wrecks your home or some other natural disaster, which I don't know if you know much about Louisiana, but we have them quite often, you're going to be left out in the cold because the judges are literally going to be bought and paid for by the insurance companies. Amendment 2, and this is the biggest one. This is a tax scam. Governor Landry has been saying that without Amendment 2, the teachers aren't going to get any stipend. But the problem is he didn't have to tie the stipend to this amendment. In fact, he could have supported the permanent pay raise that Governor John Bel Edwards put into the legislature at the end of his last term. But Landry and the Republican Party in Louisiana said no to permanent raises for teachers. Now they're playing politics with your money. Amendment 2 is not about a teacher pay raise. It's about giving tax breaks to the rich and raising sales tax on you. Individual local counties, parishes is what we call them here in Louisiana. They will have the choice on whether to pay the stipend year to year on whether or not they bring in enough money to justify it. Amendment 3 is about jailing kids. They want to put kids as young as 14 into a full adult prison for nonviolent crimes. And they're being very specious with their reasoning too. This is not okay. And Amendment 4 is about rushing judges. They want to rush through the process and pack the court with a bunch of judges beholden to them, not the people of Louisiana and not the laws of our state. Vote no on all 4 amendments today in Louisiana.
Louisiana, we did it. We defeated the 4 constitutional amendments. I mean, guys, we did it. And I'm Jay Braxton, president of the Young Democrats of Louisiana, and my friends, tonight we celebrate a victory for the people of Louisiana. Today, we didn't just vote, we defended our state. We didn't just show up, we showed out. We made our voices heard loud and clear. Louisiana is not for sale. We stopped Jeff Landry and his corrupt agenda in its tracks. We stopped the Landry tax scam. We stopped their attacks on our children. We stopped their attempts to rig our courts, to rig our elections, and to silence the people. And let me tell you something. This is just the beginning. Tonight is not just a victory for Democrats. It's a victory for all working class of Louisiana. It is a victory for every family struggling to make ends meet, for every student fighting for a better future.
Woo! Pro clutch. Louisiana just served Governor Landry 4 no's. Per Newsweek, Louisiana decisively rejected 4 proposed constitutional amendments intended to reform the state's policies on justice, juvenile crime, taxation, and judicial elections. Each measure received over 60% opposition from state voters. And they told 50 Cent no, too. I just read on KTLA, apparently social media had lit up in Shreveport with people asking each other, did you get a text or email from 50 Cent asking you to vote yes for Amendment 2? Pearl clutch. I mean, I don't know that much about Louisiana politics, but this kind of seems seismic that they voted no on all 4. Wow, pro clutch.
No, because when you wake up to news that Louisiana voters told Jeff Landry to play with somebody else, voted no for all 4 constitutional amendments, he is completely crashing out. And the folks in Louisiana are doing what folks in Louisiana do. You just know it's going to be a great week. Congratulations to the state of Louisiana.
So in Louisiana this week, and on Saturday, voters are going to the polls to consider constitutional amendments. All of them are bad. All of them have been proposed by very, very right-wing Christian nationalists in the legislature and the governor's office, and they do nothing to make Louisiana a better place. One, however, is critically important to be defeated, Amendment 3. Amendment 3 to the Louisiana Constitution, voted on this Saturday, would make it easier for law enforcement to put kids, literally teenagers, into the adult system for more offenses. Louisiana already does it, but it's for the serious offenses. This would allow law enforcement to put kids into the adult system for really minor stuff. And it's at the discretion of law enforcement. This is really going to hurt young people, really going to hurt teenagers, but primarily it's going to hurt black kids because that's who bears the brunt of the so-called tough on crime measures. They may say the words tough on crime, but it really makes us less safe. If you put a 15-year-old into the adult system, there is no rehabilitation that will take place. That kid is going to get out. And when they get out, it's going to be, it's a disaster. They're going to be traumatized. They are not public safety measures. They will make us less safe. Please, if you're in Louisiana, vote no on all the amendments, but especially Amendment 3.
Louisiana natives, when I tell y'all I have never been as proud of y'all as I am this morning. Last night I was proud, but I was in that concert, so I couldn't address it. But this morning I had to come on here and tell y'all I am so proud of us. I am so proud of us. Democrats and Republicans came together and voted no. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud. This shows that once we come together, y'all, we can do everything. We are powerful. And to our failure of a governor that came out and said Louisiana is conditioned to failure, that shows us how you really feel about us. So Louisiana, make sure this is his one and only term. We need to find a way to get him out because he just let us know that he just doesn't believe in us. We came together and I am so proud of us. Y'all, pat yourself on the back. Now everybody go get some crawfish today. We got to celebrate. Oh, and go get a daiquiri. We about to have some crawfish and daiquiris to celebrate. I'm so proud of y'all.
Here's a fun or maybe just interesting fact. Louisiana voted against all 4 of the amendments that were championed by Jeff Landry. This means that reforms won't be made to our tax structure, our juvenile structures, or the process time it takes to do things in court. It also means that lawmakers won't be able to make specialty courts. It was also written that this is higher than normal voter turnout, so apparently a lot of people felt some type of way about these things not being changed. So congratulations to the people that came out and voted because you got your way, and for the people that wanted things to change, sorry.
Louisiana giving us some good news this weekend. Check it out. All 4 constitutional amendments up for a vote, supported by Republican Governor Landry and supported by the Republican state legislature, were soundly defeated by Louisiana voters on Saturday. State of Louisiana went for Trump over Harris by 22 points in November. But when it comes to these 4 constitutional amendments, black and working class voters, largely from very densely populated areas, showed up and said hell no. Fun election fact for you, the state of Louisiana is the only state that holds its local and state elections on a Saturday. Voters in Louisiana were being asked to make 4 amendments to the state constitution related to things like education, tax structure, judicial appointments, and criminal justice, and over 2/3 of voters rejected all 4 amendments. I'm sure Governor Landry and the Republican Party in Louisiana are really reflecting on what voters actually want to see if they can do better next time. Oh, actually, no, they're not. They're just going to blame George Soros and the far left liberals for propaganda. It's not propaganda. It's called running a campaign. And the Vote No on All campaign was successful. Hypocrisy abounds with Governor Landry and the Republicans blaming George Soros when they had financial support from Charles Koch. I hope this puts a smile on your face. It sure put a smile on mine. We have a ton of work ahead of us, but if we can sustain this kind of energy for the long term, no doubt we can make some real change.
So Louisiana rejected all of the amendments that were on the ballot last weekend, or yesterday rather. And it's so funny that a lot of the articles that I'm reading about how Jeff Landry is responding to the defeat really explains what they intended to do with the amendments. And I say that's funny because why can't y'all speak in plain layman's terms when presenting the amendments in the first place? So just reading one of the articles from a local, news outlet, it broke down what the proponents of the amendments expected to happen and what they wanted to do with it. And obviously it broke down what the opponents of the amendments were expecting. So provide that information up front in regular words, not legal terms.
Saturday was a really bad day for Republicans and their dark money benefactors. Louisiana Republicans attempted to hoodwink the people of Louisiana into amending the state constitution, but it failed. All 4 proposed constitutional amendments failed by at least 2/3 margins. And that's a good thing, because if any of these passed, it would have further entrenched the party's power in the state, as well as further corrupted state institutions. So let's walk through the failed constitutional amendments, which state legislators introduced them, and the dark-moneyed interests that supported them. Amendment 1 sought to create kangaroo courts. Keep in mind the Republican Party has a trifecta over the state government. The Republican-controlled legislature sought to give themselves the authority to create trial courts of limited or specialized jurisdiction, which they did not specify, as well as to provide the state Supreme Court with original jurisdiction to discipline out-of-state lawyers. It's important to note that Louisiana state law already authorizes the state legislature to create trial courts of limited jurisdiction, so this amendment sought to expand its authority. State law also only gives original jurisdiction to the state Supreme Court to discipline members of the state bar. One of the sponsors of Amendment 1 was State Senator Jay Morris. He represents State Senate District 35, which is east of Shreveport. The other sponsor of Amendment 1 is State Representative Dixon McMacken. He represents State House District 68, which is southeast of Baton Rouge. One of the dark-moneyed interests that poured a lot of money into supporting Amendment 1 is the Pelican Institute of Public Policy, which claims to be a nonpartisan public policy think tank. Republican Party partisanship is in the Pelican Institute's DNA. The think tank is an affiliate member of the State Policy Network, which in and of itself is a dark money network. Both the Pelican Institute and its umbrella network get funding from Donors Capital Fund, which is part of Judicial Rasputin Leonard Leo's dark money network. And because all these dark moneyed interests are all in bed with each other, it's no surprise that the CEO of Pelican Institute used to work for Americans for Prosperity, which is part of the Koch brothers dark money network. It's worth mentioning that the State Policy Network is deeply connected to the Koch brothers dark money network. ALEC is one of its groups. It also has deep ties to the Heritage Foundation because one of its board members founded the State Policy Network. And like I mentioned earlier, whenever you see the Heritage Foundation or the Koch brothers, you also see Leonard Leo. Now, Leo's Donors Trust and Donors Capital Fund gave $26.6 million between 2014 and 2019. Also, the president of the Searle Freedom Trust, which gave $4.2 million in that same time frame, is the chairwoman of the board of Donors Trust. The Lyndon Harry Bradley Foundation, which gave roughly $8 million in that same time frame to the SPN, is also deeply connected with Leonard Leo's dark money network. Another connection is the Walmart heirs of the Walton Family Foundation, which gave $3 million, are deeply connected to the Koch brothers. Sarah Scaife Foundation also has deep connections to both Leo and the Koch brothers networks. So now you know whenever you see the Pelican Institute for Public Policy behind any piece of legislation, you know who's backing it. So it's a big deal that without having that information, the people of Louisiana denied the special interests Amendment 1. Shouldn't surprise you that both the Pelican Institute and Americans for Prosperity put the bulk of its resources behind Amendment 2. This proposed amendment was three-pronged. One, it would have been another tax break to the wealthy by reducing the maximum income tax rate. It's worth mentioning that the state of Louisiana has a graduated income tax system, which means the less money you make, the less taxes you pay, and it increases from there. Two, it was also a financial scheme, which would have allowed the Republican-controlled government to funnel money from a state savings account into their own little piggy bank to use as they please. In other words, it would have allowed them to basically loot the state. The amendment would have also limited the legislature's ability to increase the state budget annually, which is another way to starve public funding for public services. Which brings me to number 3, which is Amendment 2 was a poison pill for public education. Because Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry tethered a temporary stipend program for public school teachers with conditions to this amendment. If passed, Amendment 2 would have allowed Republicans to liquidate constitutionally protected education trust funds in order to pay off $2 billion in debt to the teachers' retirement system of Louisiana, which the Republican-controlled government has depleted. Condition here is that only savings after paying off that debt could be used towards those teacher stipends. Making this much worse is that Governor Landry hasn't even included any funding in the current budget proposal for those stipends. Once again, Republicans create a problem like defunding public education, and then instead of fixing it, they just make it much worse. Sponsors of this amendment are State Senate President Cameron Henry. He represents State Senate District 9, which is just west of New Orleans. State Senator Franklin Foyle, who represents State Senate District 16, which is the Baton Rouge area. State House Rep Julie Emerson, who represents State House District 39, which is just north of Lafayette. And State House Rep Mark Wright, who represents State House District 77, which is the Covington area. For reference, Lake Pontchartrain sits between his district and New Orleans. It's also worth noting that the director of the Louisiana chapter of Americans for Prosperity, which poured a lot of money into Amendment 2, is a former state legislator. And that's Scott Simon, who used to represent House District 74. Once again, the people of Louisiana were not fooled. Now, Amendment 3 is morally bankrupt, especially for the self-professed pro-life party. If passed, Amendment 3 would have given the Republican-controlled legislature the authority to pick and choose which crimes to try a juvenile as an adult for. Now, the state constitution already provides a list of applicable crimes in which a juvenile can be charged as an adult. This amendment sought to eliminate that list and make it much more ambiguous, meaning that a juvenile can be tried as an adult for any crime, even petty crime. Now, Republicans have teed up this amendment with a few actions. First, they reversed the Raise the Age law, which allows the state of Louisiana to automatically prosecute 17-year-olds as adults. Last year, the state legislature passed SB 431, which created a juvenile detention commission, which allows them to expand capacity at juvenile detention centers. That bill, as well as Amendment 3, was introduced by State Senator Heather Cloud. She represents State Senate District 28, which is in between Alexandria and Lafayette. This is the face of a woman who wants to rob juveniles of their futures. And it's worth noting that the vast majority of juveniles in the system don't look like her. Another sponsor of this amendment is this guy. Another sponsor of Amendment 3 is House Rep Debbie Villio, who also happens to be a part of the Pelican Institute. She represents House District 79, which is just north of the Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport. Unfortunately, Louisiana's own governor was also a sponsor of Amendment 3. The good news is the vast majority of Louisianans, 2/3 of them, rejected Amendment 3. And last but not least, Amendment 4 sought to change the timeline for filling vacancies on state courts. Now, Louisiana state law already mandates for the governor to schedule specials to fill those vacancies within 12 months after the day the vacancy occurs. Meanwhile, the state Supreme Court has the authority to appoint judges to fill these vacancies until the results of that special. What makes this amendment pretty sketch is that the wording is really vague. The wording in the amendment states that these vacancies should be filled at the earliest available date. Also, at the next gubernatorial or congressional cycle, if that occurs within 12 months of this vacancy. At first glance, this amendment is redundant to existing law. But since the Pelican Institute is backing this amendment, my spidey senses are up. Given the context of the Republican Party on a national level railing against any judges who check the White House's power right now, this amendment could be used for corrupt purposes. For instance, to oust state judges who do not affirm their ideological agenda and replace them with those that do. And also to give you the ability to do it faster. This familiar face, State Senator Jay Morris, is a supporter of Amendment 4. And so is State Rep Dixon McMacken. But once again, the good people of Louisiana, a 2/3 majority, rejected Amendment 4. Now, it's not just that a 2/3 majority rejected each of the 4 proposed constitutional amendments. Turnout was higher than expected for this special. Big reason for this higher turnout was Amendment 3. Also not helping the Republicans' cause were all the Christians clutching their pearls about potentially losing their property tax exemptions. Now, from what was disclosed, political action committees pumped in $700,000 into Amendment 2 alone. Just over $500,000 was put into defeating Amendment 3. In addition to dark money, Louisiana Republicans also had deep-pocketed political operatives to promote these amendments. The bottom line is Republicans had the financial advantage to flood the zone, and they got swept, which means the people have the power to out-organize big money.
Louisiana constitutional amendments, all four rejected by the voters. They let their voices be heard. The governor said only 18% of people were going to show up for that vote. The Louisiana citizens said, more than 18% of us are going to show up for this vote. And they voted on it because they said this is bad for the state. This is bad for the citizens of Louisiana. You guys are a model for the rest of us. Louisiana, Pennsylvania. You guys are doing the right thing out there with your vote. Y'all let y'all voices be heard. You voted. And you did a good job. So, yeah. And I'll leave you with this.
Listen, I was born and raised in this good old place called Louisiana.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.